Hey there! Thanks for stopping by and checking out our course snippet, taken from the Web Development Masterclass. In our course, we teach the full web development lifecycle, including all the latest web technologies and cloud hosting frameworks. For full course details and registration, please visit the link down below in the info section.
So far, we've worked with HTML and CSS. We know that both these programming languages instruct our web browser on how our web page should be displayed. We also learned that HTML and CSS are static languages that do not interact with users. In this section of the course, we'll be exploring a very powerful client-side programming language known as JavaScript. When we say client-side, it means the language communicates with our web browser to allow user-to-web page interactivity. Client-side languages differ from server-side languages such as PHP, which we'll cover later on. Server-side languages communicate not with a web browser, but with a web server. JavaScript can be used to implement many different types of interactive features on a web page. Let's take a look at some examples of JavaScript functions that interact with users. This JavaScript code calculates the amount of characters a user has typed into a text area. Once you type in the line of text and press the Calculate Characters button, you'll see that this line of text has 23 characters. This JavaScript code displays an error message if more than 10 words were typed into a text area. This is the pop-up alert that appears if more than 10 words are typed in. This JavaScript code validates a form to make sure that the required fields were completed. I've purposely put an incorrect email address and left the other fields blank. These fields are required. So once we click Submit, we receive an error message saying that some of the required fields were not completed. This is done using JavaScript validation. We'll explore much more advanced validation techniques than this. This is just a basic example. This JavaScript code ensures a user agrees to the terms and conditions of a web page in order to submit a form. If I do not check off this checkbox here, you'll notice I get a pop-up message saying that we must check the box to continue. And again, this is another JavaScript function. This is a slightly more advanced script. It's a tic-tac-toe game. And the purpose is to line up the X's or O's all in one straight line diagonally, horizontally, or vertically. And so you can see if you lose, a pop-up message appears indicating that the game is over and you've lost. These are just a few basic examples of what JavaScript can be used for. JavaScript does have some limitations. We've already touched on one in that it cannot be used to communicate with a web server. JavaScript cannot be forced onto a user's web browser either. Remember, JavaScript is a client-side language, meaning if your user has turned off JavaScript support in their web browser, your script will not work. Also, if the user's web browser is outdated, it may not allow certain JavaScript functions to work correctly. Note that almost all modern web browsers support JavaScript by default when installed. Many people also confuse JavaScript with Java. Note that these are two languages and they are not the same. Java is a much more powerful and complex language in the same category as C and C++. JavaScript is an object-oriented language. This means that attributes of an object are contained within variables. For example, if we want to describe a person, we'll refer to this person as the object. We would typically use attributes such as name, height, weight, gender, and age. The values of these attributes will vary or differ from person to person. Another word for attributes is variables. These variables will contain the values for each person. As we progress through this section, you'll gain a better understanding of this concept and the importance of working with variables.